dealing with debt collectors can be tough. I'm here to tell you, dealing with debt collectors can be very tough. And one of the main reasons why it could be very tough is that you might have a different goal with the way with what you're willing to go through to get to your ultimate goal, which is to deal with that debt collection. Some of you that have debt collectors coming after you, uh, may not be willing to go all the way to the end with having court lawsuits and dealing with summons and dealing with showing up to court. Then that may not be within you to want to do that. And there is no right or wrong with dealing with this. So what I've done is I've compiled some questions that a lot of people here on YouTube and in my live chat ask when it's dealing with debt. And what I have done when I was evaluating my responses is I started asking people what are your goals and what are you willing to do? And when I asked those questions, I started getting some answers that I was aware of that could be potentially in people's minds, but people were starting to express them. Because if I just gave you a solution for something, 9 times out of 10, I won't say 9 times out of 10, but if it doesn't match what your tolerance is, what you're willing to do, what you want to do with dealing with this debt, it's not going to work because you may not be of the mindset of, hey, I want to fight and go through all of this. You may be of the mindset of, I just want to get this stuff over with and I want to go to work, take care of my family. I don't want to have to go to court. I don't want to have to deal with them. I want to figure out a way to resolve it so I can get it behind me faster. Some of you may be of the mindset, well, I'll fight it all the way to the end, win or lose. Some people have that mindset. And I say that there's no right or wrong. What needs to match the solution is what you are willing to do on that front side, because whatever you're willing to do on the front side is going to make the solution the best for you. And so before I get started, I want to make this clear because a lot of people are still getting this, is it has this misunderstanding, this misconception of what debt relief and what debt settlement is all about. Debt relief and debt settlement are the same thing. Debt relief and debt settlement, what they do is they tell you to stop paying your original creditors, allow it to charge off, and then they will try to settle on those debts. The reason why it has to do that is that no original creditor is allowed to cut you any deal. Allowed to cut you any deal. I repeat, allowed to cut you any deal without the account being charged off. Even if the original creditor cut you a deal and said, hey, we're going to settle this account for whatever percentage, the next month it will show as a charge off on your credit reports. And that is required by law because they can't just be cutting deals, and fixing and cooking the books on stuff. It has to be charged off, taken off of the performing accounts book, and put on non-performing accounts books, and then they can do a settlement or they can sell it, whatever. That's what they can do. But people are still thinking that debt settlement, debt relief is consolidation. You're not consolidating any debt. Where they're getting people confused is that they're saying you're consolidating all of your debts and you're paying them a payment that's going to go towards being able to settle your debt. It's like a play on words. If all of you got, let's say you got 5 credit cards here and you were paying 2,000 a month, and now they say consolidate them with us, which does not mean that they're giving you a new loan. They're just saying give them to us. We're going to reach out to them at a certain point to settle these accounts, but you need to pay us $1,000 a month, and it's instantly saving you $1,000 a month. They cannot guarantee any settlement. They cannot guarantee that they won't sue you. As a matter of fact, what makes these questions keep coming up is that people get sued, and that's why I'm making this video, because everything that I tell you is either from personal experience or dealing with a client where we know, not where we read some book or we watched some other video. This is real deal stuff. I stamp my word and my reputation on this. So Question number one that I get asked a lot is, if debt collectors for the original creditors are calling you, should you answer the phone? And the answer is yes, you should answer the phone, but I'm going to take some steps back. What did I just tell you? Based off of your goals, based off of what you want the end result to be and what you're willing to go through on the front end is is going to determine how you're going to move forward right at that point. So I'm going to take it from someone who does not want to fight, someone who wants to just get this stuff over with, does not want to go to court, wants to avoid all court at all costs, but does not want to pay the full amount to the original creditor. And also, these are debts that are not passed to a debt collector, the debt collection company who has purchased the debt. These are debts that the original creditor maintained, took off of the good books, put onto the non-performing accounts books, and hired a debt collection company to collect on that debt. This is where we're at right there. We're not outside of that box there. So the answer is yes, you should answer that phone. You need to answer that phone call. And let me tell you the reasons why. You need to answer that call because if you don't, they're just going to think that you're just hiding from them. You don't want to pay. If you've been paying them all of this time, they expect some sort of story, some sort of reasoning behind why you were not paying us now, and we were looking and you were always able to pay. They could be potentially offer you all types of options that you maybe didn't even think was available to you. But if the main goal is to not to have to go to court, answering the phone call from the debt collection company who is hired by the original creditor could hold off a lot of things from happening to you, from them taking you to court. Because if you get to tell them about your hardship, even if it's just a financial hardship, hey, I got in over my head, I'm not able to pay right now. That's more than just running from them. They at least have some information about how they're able to tell their client that they should move forward on this account. Also, if you answer the phone, you can request a debt validation from the debt collector who is hired to collect from the original creditor. That is your choice. You can ask them to submit all the documents, and that's something that you could do to kind of delay the process for a little bit. But knowing that it's from the original creditor, the main benefit of answering that call is that number one, it only allows them to call you that one time that week. They can't call you until next week. But what I've seen from experience is that when you answer that call and you tell them what's going on, they usually don't call you for another 30 days. They move on to all of the other people who are not answering their phone, who are running. So they want to try to get some answers from them. They can draw up a report from you saying, hey, this is what's going on. Ask their client how they want to proceed. You never know what door could open from that. So the next thing is that I get a lot of questions about is I got my notes here. Do you put them on? Okay, if you answer the call, should you tell them not to call you? Should you do a cease and desist all uh, uh, to communications? And I say no. If you're, again, this goes back to what your main goals are. What are your goals? Your goal is not to go to court. You do a cease and desist communications, they're going to take you to court. They're going to be like, we have no other option. There's no communications. They might send you some stuff in writing, which they should send you stuff in writing, but there's no open communications. And again, if your goal is not to go to court, not to have to go that route, then you need to keep the communications open and you need to allow them to call you. And again, if your personality doesn't even allow you to be able to talk to them on the phone, then you need to tell them to please send it in writing. And then every time in writing, you need to respond to it, and you need to do that with certified mail. If you respond to them on the phone, they're recording all the calls. They tell you that up front. So you don't have to worry about anything, that you're going to have the recordings. And they're working for the original creditor. This is the box that we're working in with this here. So you do not want to tell them not to call you. You want to keep the communications open so you can keep expressing your financial hardship. And if you have a medical hardship, you can express the medical hardship also. Um, the next one is if uh, never offer a settlement, either payments or lump sum, unless you had the money to actually settle it. Never offer a settlement to any original creditor or debt collector. This goes for both, unless you had the money to do it. I have had people who wanted to make it look like they were trying to put their best foot forward and they did not have the money to do settlements. And I told them that that is something that you should not do. We've had clients come to us for settlements and they're like, we want to make a settlement. And we would look at their paperwork and then call the debt collector or the creditor, and they would say we already had an agreement and they didn't follow through with the agreement. So never, 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 never make a settlement agreement if you are not able to follow through with it. Just keep holding them off. That's why I make these videos, so it will keep you and have you put in the right position to deal with them, not putting yourself in a bad position to deal with them. Because if you don't follow through with the settlement that you've negotiated, and then you're going to try to reach out to a third party company to go through with it, what do you think the first thing that they're going to say is that, hey, this person is not reliable? Even if they want to do a lump sum payment, they're going to still believe that you're unreliable, and it might have a little bit of animosity that has built up because you did not follow through with that arrangement previously. One of the next things that I get a lot of questions on is if they are not able, if they don't agree with what you're able to offer them as a settlement. Um, from experience, this is what can happen. That mainly they're going to do research on you. They're going to try to look at your situation, see where you're at financially. They're going to look at your credit reports. They're going to look at the stuff that you're paying on, and it's going to kind of determine how they want to move forward. Now, if you have your own disability, you can tell them that you can prove that you're on disability, that maybe you lost your job or medical, all of that stuff. All of that stuff can play a huge part when they decline your settlement offer. You can, reiterate that stuff and even, step it up to show more proof. What we've done with clients is when we've expressed a medical and financial hardship, is that we ask the client, are you willing to supply documentation to kind of back that up? And most of them will say yes. There have been circumstances where people just didn't want to kind of disclose what they were going through medically, but most people are willing to go through disclosing that because it's going to open up the doors for a lot of potential favorable options. One of them that comes to mind, which is the one that everybody talks about, is a 1099-C, where they just forgive the entire debt. They just cancel it out. But yes, it most of the time when dealing with the original creditor and a debt collector has the debt, what they're going to do, they're going to tell the debt collector, hey, if you get this settlement offer for this amount, any of the clients that you have with us, they'll usually give them a percentage and say, if somebody come to you with that, you don't even need to call us. It's signed off on. Anything below that, we want you to haggle. Uh, anything below that, and anything below the below, we want you to send it to us for approval. And this is the way this goes. This is real deal stuff. Remember, the debt collection company, when they get hired by these companies, they're putting up a big sales pitch to them saying that we get our clients huge, uh, the most money. Even when it comes to settlements, we have the highest percentage on a settlement, where other companies might settle for 50%. We usually settle for 75% or more with when you send the accounts to us. We do our due diligence. See, they don't just hire a debt collection company. they get sold on what debt collection company that they're going to work with. So you got to keep that in mind. So when you're dealing with these debt collectors on the phone, you're going to be dealing with someone who is the caller, and then they have a manager, and then that manager potentially has a manager, which is going to be the attorney, because nothing's going to be processed or go through without that attorney signing off on it. And then that attorney is who negotiated to be uh, contracted by the company. And so they're going to want to make sure that their reputation is tight with whatever they promised, with what their agents come through with. So it's not just about offering them settlements and all that. It may seem like that, but there are channels. Um, Next time that you're trying to do a settlement, I want you to listen and see if you hear a keyboard. One of the things that they're doing now is they're doing instant messaging with their management. So they'll say, okay, you want to offer this amount. They're typing that right into their manager. Their manager is sitting there with a screen from all of the agents, and they're saying, okay, I got a settlement here, this amount, matching it up. They're doing this real time stuff because the more they can save time and have that agent go to a different client right away if they can say, yes, draw it up. Yes, we're going to draw it up. We're going to email it over to you. This is how it's being done right now. A lot of the stuff, even with the POAs and all of that stuff, this stuff is being instantly done with email. They want to save time. They don't want to even want to have nothing fax. They're just like, send it with an email so we can get it. We can get it to this department. That department will get back with you. That department will assign you a rep. And then it's just this big loop on trying to get a settlement done. But it has to go through many hands. And you may not even be aware of it, that they're even doing that real time where while they're talking to you. They could be typing in, hey, they have a medical hardship. They're willing to provide documentation. They have a financial hardship. They're willing to provide documentation on one screen. They'll have your credit reports up because they're members and they're able to put stuff on your credit reports. So they also can access your credit reports to see what you're paying on. And they're like looking at your story, what you're telling them, and then looking at the story that they see with how your credit reports tell the story, and they making that match. And if you see hear any resistance, it's because they're looking at that real life, real time screen, saying, okay, you didn't pay these three credit cards, but you're paying five other ones, and you have a car that you're paying on, and you have a mortgage that you're paying on, and you have a student loan that you're paying on. So you can see how that story, when they look at it, they can be like, well, maybe they are hiding money from us. So you're going to have that back and forth. It's going to be a real negotiation, but that goes back into what I said earlier. What is your tolerance? What is your goal? What do you want to go through to be able to get to that uh, to that ultimate goal? Because if they're seeing that, they may not. They would say, "Hey, we don't believe you. This is our best offer." Uh, and you could either take it or leave it. That's how they'll say it, even though it's not their best offer. But you're going to have to go through a little bit more pain to be able to get to a better offer. And that pain may be to have to end up going to court. So again, I ask you that question again. Would it, if they say 50% is what we're willing to settle, period, the client will not take less than 50%. And then they say, okay, well, we'll see you in court next week or next month. Where are you at? Where are you at? And this is something that we tell clients, because I don't think the other companies make that clear to people. Is they're just like, hey, we can try to settle it, this and that. Other companies don't even help you if they summons you to court. They don't even write your response, so they just like leave you high and dry. You need to have those answers in your own mind on what you're willing to go through to be able to get to the ultimate goal. Because if you're not willing to go to court, you're not willing to make them do other things to potentially get that settlement down lower, then you're not a good candidate to keep trying to do all of these other strategies that are available to you, because you just don't have the tolerance to even deal with that. So uh, if they offer a settlement and you're not able to work with it, you can tell them no, but you're going to have to play that game of that back and forth. And you're going to have to pay attention to if they say, we're going to go ahead and move this to court. because if they move it to court, there's probably something that they can verify either with assets or either with other stuff that you're paying on your credit reports that will justify them to take the risk to take you. All right, another question that people have asked me when dealing with debt collectors is they said that they were rude to them. The debt collection representative was rude to them, which is a violation if you can document it and you can, you had that option to be able to do something about it. Usually, what'll happen is that you will say that you can't pay, and they may come back and say, where they're like putting pressure on you to pay. Maybe they're skirting that gray, that line on being harassment, but because you're in an emotional state, it's easy for them to put pressure on you about not paying your debt, like, period. It's easy for them to do it because they're going to, any button that they push, and that number one button is, why are you not paying? You use this money to get stuff, and they know exactly what you use that money from that card to get stuff. They know. It's not like they have to ask somebody. They know what you utilize the card for, so they're able to push buttons on you that maybe someone that like somebody that you borrowed money from. Only button they're able to push is, hey, you need to pay the money back, or you said you had to pay this and pay the money back. But credit card companies know exactly what you spent every dime on. If it's some coffee from Starbucks, or you bought some clothes from, one of the high-end stores, or a bag, or whatever it is, they know. They know every charge. They record it. So you have to be prepared that they can push those buttons, but you have to not get rude with them. If your ultimate goal is to be able to get yourself into a position to potentially, if you have a financial hardship and a medical hardship, being rude to the representative is not going to do you any, is not going to help you at all. Because what you ultimately want them to do, especially if you have a financial and a medical hardship, you want to them to believe get them to understand what you're going through. And what is the easiest way to get someone to understand what you're going through? Do you get someone to understand what you're going through by yelling at them, by not communicating with them, by being rude to them? Is that the way that you get your point across to people? No. What you do is you explain your situation. And at the beginning, if you understand that their job is not to believe you with anything that you say, their job is to get you to pay. I repeat, their job is not to believe anything that you say. Their job is to get you to pay. But human nature, what do we all do as humans? The more we speak to someone and we talk to them and we tell them this is what we're going through, and that's why I say keep that communications open, because what I have seen happen, some people call it a miracle. I call it being persistent and keeping the lines of communications open, especially when it comes to a financial and a medical hardship. That combination together can open up doors that you probably never anticipated when dealing with these creditors, because they had an option to do a 1099-C cancellation of debt, which is a discharge of that debt. So you do not want to get into any back and forth with the debt collection company. You do not, because that's going to be, it's like that person that you're talking to on the phone is the person who's going to take it to their manager. And I'm not saying that I know what they are saying to them, but if we are just logical with the way that we are as humans, so just like you're listening to me with this video, if you're still here watching this video with 24 minutes and 32 seconds into this video, you would say, I just believe what Steve is saying. That same thing works for when you're talking with people and you're negotiating with debt, you're talking to them about your situation, is that at some point when communications is open, at some point that person is going to internalize and believe that you're going through that situation, and they're going to be able to take it to their upper management to offer you options that they would probably never offer to anyone else. I've seen situations where uh, people were given complete, total debt forgiveness for thousands of dollars. I have one on my website for 30, I think it was 32,000 or 36,000, and one recently for 18,000, another one for 11,000, other ones for 15,000, 1,500, different amounts. But when I think back to what was the difference between those and difference between other people who came to us and their situation is just in crisis mode, is that they never had any communications open with their creditors. No communications open with their creditors. But that goes back into the tolerance of the individual who is dealing with the debt. Like everybody focuses on the solutions, but they never match the solutions to what they are really willing to do. So if you're not willing to talk to your creditors, then you need to get someone in the middle for you to talk to your creditors. And if they are not willing to talk to your creditors, it is going to make it very difficult for you at some point, because all of those creditors at some point are either going to sell the debt to a debt collector who is going to try to take you to court over that debt, or the original creditor is going to choose to take you to court and sue you over that debt. When a lot of that stuff can be avoided, I'm not saying that all of it, but I'm saying a lot of the stuff can be avoided by just simply at the beginning opening up the communications and understanding what your goals are, and what you are willing to do on a personal level to deal with this debt. Some of you can stand it, some of you cannot. And if you cannot, you need to get a company like ours that is going to be in the middle of you to deal with those to deal with debt collectors that are collecting for original creditors, or to deal with debt collectors who are trying to come after you for debt that they purchased. And also, anyone, I want to repeat this too, uh, we do not tell people to stop paying their accounts to allow them to charge off. We do not tell people to stop paying their cards and let them charge off. We do not tell people to do that. If you have stopped paying them and they're charged off, then you would qualify to be a client of ours, because then we could take over the process from there. We do expect you to be 100% upfront with what you have and haven't done with dealing with the creditors or debt collectors who are coming after you for the charged off accounts. All right, I'm in the video here. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, what makes us different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my two-phase settlement process. If you need your credit portion scores, go to the website the number 3scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you decide to work with us, that company lines up with the system that we use to repair credit. If you have debt collectors coming after you for debt that is sold to a debt collector, grab my 3-pack of letters: statute of limitations, cease and desist collecting activities letter, and the debt validation letter to go back and forth. I do ask for a donation with those, but it can help you save time, money, and frustration. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel, post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.